Hi, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great.
I'm Matt Pierce.
Matt, I am Pamela Muldoon. It's really nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too,
It's
Pamela.
awesome to meet you.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about you, so let's
You're a stranger to me,
let's
Matt.
get to know each other.
For sure.
Where are you from and what do you do?
And when you say where am I from, do you mean
Let's-
company
let's
or
do
do you
both
want to go
company-
back to when I was born and
Well, your existential existence, where did it start? No, let's say
Where are we all
kind of
from,
where are you
Matt?
based out of, company
Yeah.
and role.
My current position is a campaign and content strategist for an agency, a consulting agency called the Pedowitz Group. And the Pedowitz Group is actually located in Atlanta, but we're a remote company. So I get to work out of my home office, which is awesome. And I live in Henderson, Nevada currently.
Okay.
And my thing is, we have this thing called the Las Vegas Strip.
Yep.
Perhaps you've heard of it.
I have indeed.
Yeah.
I've been there once or twice.
Henderson is where I live, but there's
Yep.
these lights in the distance.
It just
Yeah,
glows and lights.
glows.
There are no stars. It's only the
24/7,
strip.
pretty much.
Awesome.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And what kind of stuff do you do for the agency?
Well, I'm a strategist, a consultant
Yep.
strategist, which of course that's kind of a buzzy thing to say, right? But at the end of the day, I work with clients to help them put up their campaigns around marketing automation, say Marketo, Eloqua, et cetera, right, for lead gen, demand gen. But I do it mainly around the content that they're providing.
Okay.
What are they actually providing to the audience to get the objective? And so it's, work with a lot of enterprise companies. So
Very cool.
it's interesting and frustrating sometimes all at the same time.
Those things usually go together, right?
And I'm really glad I work from home because sometimes I just need to walk outside, right?
Turn
Turn it all down.
Turn off and
Yeah.
sorry, bad cell connection.
Right.
Vegas got in the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What? What? Yes.
Well, very
So
cool.
Matt, you're with TechSmith. I know this.
Yes.
So, and all I know about TechSmith are the products that I really play with, which is, of course, your Snagit, right? And your Camtasia from
Yep.
back in the day. I worked a little bit with that. But what do you do with TechSmith? What's your role?
Yep. So my role is a unique one. I'm the learning and video ambassador. Is my title. It's
Learning and video ambassador.
So my role is couple-fold. One is to come out to events like Content Marketing World and to give sessions, presentations.
Okay.
So I teach
So
people.
the learning is really you teaching.
Me teaching, both in person. My background is instructional design.
Nice.
So where a lot of people come from the background of like, oh, I'm a marketer or I'm a salesperson. I'm coming from a learning background.
Yes.
Focused on like years ago creating tutorials on how to use products like Snagit and Camtasia.
Yes.
And so I come out and speak at conferences. I meet people. I also write content, create content, working on this idea of teaching people how to create video through using video to do that. So we know a lot of people, especially at events like this, they're like, hey guys, I want to use video, or my boss is telling me I have to use video. Right. And so what I am is that say, here, let me help you to learn some of those fundamentals so that you can start. And it might be just the basic of like, hey, here's the most simple kind of basic video you can do.
Yeah.
Or here's some things that you can do better and learn about more so that you can improve your quality so you can actually do the things that you want to do.
So because of your instructional design background, do you find that you are better equipped in your own skill set to meet them where they're at?
I think,
because when you say video, that's a huge topic right now, right? From technology to the content, to the angles, to the lighting, right? It gets a little insane.
Right.
But I'm guessing that with the fact that you've been educating others for a long time, you've written education models, right? Or content that you've really kind of learned how to get very specific and detailed where you need to be. And when you're saying too much, because it's too much, right?
And I mean, there's always a risk, especially the more you learn.
Yeah.
With anyone, you just get this curse of knowledge where it's like, I don't know what I don't know anymore, or I don't know what I know, because there's fundamental layers upon layers. You've gotten complex in your system of thinking. That like what a basic person's like, I don't even know how to turn the camera on.
Right.
You're like 5 steps beyond that because you never even think about turning the camera on.
So you got to start back to the basics with these folks.
Yep, and there's strategies you can pull on as you learn as an instructional designer, especially if you interview lots of subject matter experts. But I think it does give an advantage in that way because I'm used to teaching people who are at either ground zero or just above ground zero. But there's, like you said, there's so many things that what to decide to teach on or what people need. It's across the board and it's harder to narrow in, especially when you're talking to a
Right.
group like,
Well, a lot of times we don't even know what we want,
right.
right? Like when we come to someone like you and I'm like, oh, I have to do a video. Well,
What do you want?
that's a very broad statement. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Absolutely. And so it's super interesting and super, I find it really kind of this exciting challenge because I think video is such an important medium for us at this point.
Yes.
And it's so still underdeveloped, even though like it's actually quite big. There's so many different opportunities to do things that are new, to do things that are going to change the way the industry thinks or the way your business is working, because it's just, you can get things in there that even if you're a great writer, it's really hard to do. It's like get emotion, get feeling, make it really compelling. You can do that, but you can do it on a different level, I think, with the visual, the audio, the music, and all the components coming together.
Well, and you said a word that to me is very important, audio. I've been a podcaster longer than this conference.
That's awesome. I love podcasts.
So I know one of the things that I was coached to talk to you about was the importance of audio and video. So I would love just to do a little chit chat around that, because I've always told people, because I get the question, I do a lot of some podcast consulting. I've helped with that with some companies and some individuals. And I get a lot of questions like, should I do video or a podcast?
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Which one should I do? Which to me, that's the wrong question to ask. Right. So I'd love your take on just kind of that methodology, because they're coming to you because they already know they want to do video probably. But when people are asking me that, it surprises me. Why are you making a choice? You could probably do both and do them well, or work them, together in your plan in some way. But then the importance of audio when it comes to video and some of the struggles and opportunities you see.
Do we have like 3 more hours today? Because
I think we have as much time as we want.
Well, let's take because I'm interested in your answer for this too. So I want to don't let me just like answer and then you not answer, because
all right.
I think with the question of do I do audio, podcast, or do I do video?
Right.
Like I said, I think it's getting at the wrong question, because those are just mediums. It's like, well, do I write for my website or do I do video for my website?
I know, right?
Well, what are you trying to accomplish? Where's your audience, and who is it that you're trying to reach?
Yeah.
We've seen a resurgence of podcasting that's gone, it was kind of big for a little bit, then it dipped, and now it's in the last couple of years that we've seen it really grow.
Yes.
Which is interesting though, because you look at the top podcasts and a lot of them are professionally produced, like NPR.
Right.
And which is great.
They have editing resources, they've got professional studios, and yeah.
But I know for a fact that the cost of entry to a podcast, because I've actually started 2 podcasts.
Yes.
One of them
Is the keyword started?
Started, yes. It's always time. And these were personal projects of mine.
For sure, yeah.
And one of them, I was highly producing interviews with people called the Backstory Project, where I was just like you would be someone I'd interview and be like, okay, let's figure out how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
And so it was like super fun, but just a time commitment.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, with all the other things in life, I can't really do that.
If you want it done well, you're going to put the effort, and effort does I totally get it.
So that from a cost perspective, yes, of course that's going to be more, or less than some other things you could choose to do. Now, the other one I did is actually what I call a community-driven podcast.
Really? And
so it's called 5 Trainers in a Car. So it's L&D focused. I know. It was a spur of the moment. There's 5 people in this little Mercedes-Benz convertible, and we were talking about stuff that was really relevant and interesting. And somebody said, this would make a great podcast. I had a digital recorder. And I pulled it out and I said,
oh, that's
let's do it. And so we did that one episode. Then someone said, well, I want to do one. And they're like, but Matt, you're not here. I said, I don't have to be here. And so at events like this for the L&D space, what I did is said, you want to make a podcast, get a couple people together, get in a car, pick a topic and record it. Send it to me.
Oh, wow.
I'll probably have you write content for it or whatever, but let's do this.
Yeah.
We haven't done a ton of episodes, and, again, there's some time when, because if I'm the only person driving it, but the cost of entry was a digital recorder.
Yep.
And that's actually really it, because I had you can use free software, or if you have a software on your machine to do audio editing.
Right.
And the quality isn't perfect because you're in a car.
Right. It's kind of your environment almost forgives the proper quality for, say, a studio-driven type of experience.
Right. Now, I don't recommend recording in a convertible every time.
Right.
Like, get a nice car.
Ambient noise going on.
But the thing is, it wasn't bad. It was just kind of that background noise. So it worked.
Just a little bit of a hum.
Yeah. And people have become really like, wow, this is really fun, because you get to have this conversation and the kind of that authenticity.
Yeah, well, you're putting them in an environment that's very comfortable, and they're just going to talk. They probably forget the recorder's on.
Sometimes, yes. Some of them did. We did an episode in Las Vegas, and it's like, whoa. We're talking about bodies, and anyway.
Yeah.
but so the entry cost to podcasting is pretty low. So
Yes.
I mean, if you're budget constrained, do that, right? Like if you're like, I just need to get media out there, and I want to do something that's not written. Podcasting can be really affordable.
Absolutely.
But if you want to do it well, of course, you got to put time and effort into it.
Yep.
Dedicate some resources. Now, video it used to be we had to go high end, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be $10,000 entry point. But the advent of cell phones and smartphones with decent cameras, that cost has come down. Now, that's not what you want to do everything. You don't want to do everything to be a smartphone. But I feel like we're at this point where you can make really good video with a device in your pocket and a lot of just thoughtfulness. And so the cost is kind of getting eliminated in some ways, and you can do neat things.
Right.
So, or you can take that audio, if you plan how that content's going to flow, you can do both.
Right.
I'm part of this weekly, they do every Friday, it's called Video Friday. It's a learning development group that gets together, live stream kind of chat. And they've started turning that into a podcast because not everyone can watch it. And and the visuals, it's really 3 people or 4 people talking. It's like, well, that's not that interesting to look at. Kind of maybe like,
you're right.
Like us
that's a
talking.
really valid point. I hadn't really thought of it from that angle, but that's totally valid, right? Like we get a lot of now, what I consider them webcasts, not podcasts when video's involved.
Yep. I'm
kind of a purist that way.
Sure.
So when someone tells me they're doing a podcast and it's a video version or it's a, two-headed video that they're recording or whatever the case is, I'm like,
right.
They're doing a webcast or a video cast, and because the delivery model is so different and kind of to your point, like I'm hoping that as people are watching us talk, this is awesomely fascinating.
Right.
But you're absolutely with 4 people kind of talking to each other. It kind of changes the dynamic of video, unless you're probably doing like cool, shots or.
Well, this is all remote even.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's just the squares of people in whatever
like doing
space
a conference call.
And everyone's listening in. Everyone's listening in, and they're chatting on the side about what you're talking about or not.
Right.
And so, but I think
That's
those
hilarious.
experiences you got to plan for. So again, the question isn't, do I do this or do I do that?
Right.
Which one should I do? It's which one's where's your audience? Because podcasting, unless you have a good distribution method inside your organization, you're going to go to iTunes, you're going to go to Google Play, and is your audience there and do they care? I think a really good example of an organization that's done an interesting podcast is Slack.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was interesting when they went through the change because they had the podcast and they were going ahead and all of a sudden like, we're taking a break and we come back, it's going to be completely different.
Right.
I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. Could they have done video? Yeah, but it would have probably upped their budget a ton and, the cost of getting on location for what they were trying to do to tell the stories.
Sure.
But can you tell the effective story and then does your audience care enough to find you there? And then same with video. You can do all the video you want, but if your audience isn't going to watch it,
right.
Who cares?
That's so true.
Long answer.
No.
What's your thoughts?
What in terms of the either or conversation? I mean, I'm right there with you. It's always struck me as an odd question, but I think what they're really saying is we only have the budget for one thing. Which one should we do? And it always goes back to bigger questions.
Yeah.
Who's your audience? What's your objective? What do you want? What's the business result if you're doing it for business that you want to obtain? And I think it is. But I also think that if you have the resources, whether it's a small group of people, a small company where you can have different people try different things, or even a bigger marketing department in an enterprise situation, I say try a little bit of everything, because I think along with the audience and objective questions, I think one of the things I'm taking out of the conference this year too is just get your foot wet,
Right.
Just go out there. It's so funny, Matt. I have been a purist audio. I've actually started my first career in radio.
Okay. So you know
30 years ago.
I won't tell anyone.
And so I'm a purist audio person, and I'm not afraid of a video. Obviously, I wouldn't be sitting here. Right. But it's not something that I automatically think, I'm going to do some video, because I'm very conscious of how different the delivery model is. Right. Because I think that's the other thing. I really want content creators to respect the medium that they've chosen. Yeah. To learn as much as they can how to look how they want to look.
Stop
and,
slouching,
you know,
Matt. That's
you
my
know,
cue. Stop slouching.
you know, but even this, right? Like if we did this, if we scrape the audio of some very visually, you know, descriptive, or the visual is more
Yeah.
descriptive than the audio, we lose a little bit.
Oh, you
Does that
lose a
make
ton.
sense,
Yeah, you absolutely
right?
lose a ton.
Totally. So, and then at the same time, and I have no doubt you've experienced this. People are doing video and their audio is horrendous.
Yep.
And what's the odds of watching? I mean, our viewership when that happens.
Yeah, we find that it goes down dramatically,
Yeah.
and that's one of the points I talk to a lot of people about is audio is like it's 50% of your video in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's things you can do, especially like you look at Facebook and, you know, people are not watching videos with audio, and there's ways to compensate for it, but it's really tough. Because if they are watching it and you don't have like a voiceover or somebody talking about something, how are you conveying that mood and that feeling? And you can use music, you could use all sorts of stuff for that. But so it's such an integral part of telling the story.
Absolutely.
Whatever that story is, even if it's a more formal, like a CEO talking to the company, you want to convey and dictate what that message is through all the mediums. And that's what's great about video. Now, as someone who is an audio purist, I'm curious. I hear a lot of people, and particularly there's different videos. Not every video needs a voiceover.
Right.
But a lot of people hate their voice.
Yes.
So what tips, what would you tell to somebody like, I can't do a podcast because I have a terrible voice?
Right. And did they tell you I was a voiceover talent as well?
No. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I've literally been doing the mic thing for a long time.
You can tell I'm not, because I'm like all raspy.
But you got your own voice. And I think that's what's really critical. I actually had a chance. I led the podcasting panel here at Content Marketing World this year. And afterwards, a member of the audience, we talked about delivery. And it was fascinating because he said, you know, our agency's recommended we hire a voiceover talent, a professional voiceover to possibly do the podcast, but they don't know our content, versus like me, I know the content, but I sound funny, or I don't like the sound of my voice. And I actually recommended to get over that. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but practice. I think what Mitch Joel said today was put your reps in, right?
Yeah.
Get behind the mic and practice and just get comfortable, because at the end of the day, whether it's video, audio, the written word, it's about that connection. And we're talking about mediums that are very intimate in a way, right? Sometimes the way the camera works with a person is intimacy. What we do in audio is pure intimacy.
Right.
And yes, you can use a professional voice and that might sound good, but they can't speak about your brand and your services and your community the way you can. And they were a membership association on top of it.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
dude, you have got to be you. And it's practice. I mean, we always sound different in our own ear, right? I was very fortunate. I started in broadcasting when I was a teenager and went into radio school and did that. I learned to get past that because I hated the sound of my voice, just like everybody else. But when you're getting air checked every week by your boss, you get over it really fast. And, you know, so I always say air check yourself, or find other people you trust that are going to give you positive and negative feedback. Do you know what I'm saying?
What air check? When you say,
I'm totally
that's a phrase that I don't
dating
necessarily know.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. I don't even realize I'm probably even dating myself because we used cassette tapes.
Yeah. Get the pencil, gotta rewind.
Air check was when you're on the air, you actually would put a cassette into the recorder in the studio. It would record your whole, all of your shift. It would actually stop recording during the commercial breaks or when you were playing the songs. And whenever you hit the microphone, it would start recording. So it would air check you. It would basically, you could check yourself on the air.
See how you sound like, your levels are right and things like
that. And then
that.
you'd sit down with your program director, usually once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, and he would listen and give you feedback.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You know, so like a review basically, only it was all the time, you know, like this was a really funny bit. Yeah, keep doing stuff like that. Oh, you ran into this commercial stop too fast. So giving you tips on how to be better at delivery, as well as how to be, build your own kind of personal brand as a DJ.
So I love that concept because I think whether it's audio or video, that feedback. And I think, and for me, when people say I don't love my voice, I'm like, yeah, get over it. You've got a great voice.
It's easy to say.
Build a personality, and I tell people to be a persona of yourself, right? Be you, but either, figure out how to take that up a notch a little bit so you're just a little bit bigger so it comes through.
Right.
But also seek out that feedback. I remember So when I started at TechSmith, I've been there, over 11 years now. So it's been a
Did
lot.
you come in on your walker today?
Yeah, 11 years ago, way back when. But and it was really the first videos I was creating.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I made one for my interview, and I'd made maybe one video before that. And here I was expected to make tutorial videos, and I did some of the voiceover work for the tutorials.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the guys that was the product manager of the product said, "Yeah, you're too Midwestern, too Michigan."
Oh my goodness.
And I was like devastated, like, oh my
Oh.
gosh, here I am, trying to do these videos. It's not gonna be my voice. And it was fine. He went and did it with his very Californian kind of, even keel, neutral.
Yes.
But I realized, like, I, as a person, my voice is not going to be as good as like some people that do voiceovers for us.
Right.
They're just really good. They got a good, like, some of the guys have this nice, clear kind of bass, or
Yes.
and I'm not that. But I just be me, and I just ramp up.
But you have a personality that is, and I think that's what's so critical. And honestly, voiceover is a very different audio model versus a podcast,
Yeah.
right? And I think what's really critical about understanding that is that personality part, right? That edutainment element. And there's a reason that because even in the voiceover world, one of the things I've been coached and mentored by some of the biggest names in voiceover, and I've talked to a lot of agents, a lot of people in the industry that are hiring people, right? And it all comes down to this basic thing that when people tell you you have a voice for voiceover, that's not the reason to get in it. The
Right.
reason to get in it is because you have the ability to be a character, or you have the ability to be conversational. I mean, way back in the day, we had, the big announcer voices, right? Like Gary Owens, from Laughing. I'm totally dating. Don LaFontaine, yes,
Yep.
the trailer guy, right? And they were paid because the announcer voice was a very special kind of delivery. Not everybody could do that. We're actually finding voices like you, Matt, are the way that people want to hear us. They want to hear just people talking. And that's why podcasting is awesome.
And I think that translates to video too, right?
Yeah.
Like, and from a brand perspective, like, because, and I've noticed this because I do a lot of video for TechSmith. I do Facebook Live videos. I did a web show back starting in 2010. And so I've done a lot of these things. And what I find is I go out and people are like, I know you. Like, I'm like,
yes.
Hi, I don't remember who you are, but
Right.
because they connect. Like, I'm just a real person. I'm not anyone like
wacky.
Yeah. I'm a little weird.
You are a little weird.
I got some nerd cred, but but people respond to that in video as well. I think just from a voice, because all of a sudden you become a friendly face that makes it okay to be approached.
Yep.
Like, he talked to me on Facebook. I was on their Facebook page, and he was there.
He talked to me on Facebook, though.
And
that's so funny. It's probably literally what it feels like, right? Like he's talking to me on Facebook because it's in the feed, and there it is.
Yep.
And yeah.
So it's so I think there's a lot of parallels, and going back to our kind of original, which one, using and learning from both, and then, as you said, I think going and just continuing to learn. Like, if you don't like your voice, get over it and start learning what makes it a little bit better.
Yeah. Find, and I think too, because I do see this, I'd be curious, do you see this, like when people get in front of a camera, they act a little different? Because now there's another eyeball looking at them, right? Like even I am trying to not look at the camera because I know we're supposed to talk to each other. That's driving me a little crazy because I don't do video as much. So it's not a comfort place. I mean, I can do it, right? But it's not where, and yet I think the same thing happens when people get behind a mic and they realize it's theirs. So like when you talked about your podcast and people forgot the recorder was on, that's when the magic happens. Is when you forget it's there. But that's really hard for a lot of people. I think especially with cameras, right? With video.
It is, because it's right there in your face.
Yeah.
And especially with video, you got lights, it's bright. It doesn't feel natural. You're asked to sit and sit.
How's my hair?
Can I move my face? And that someone out there on the internet is probably judging what you're doing.
Right.
Fair or not, they're doing it. And so you feel all this pressure. And we had an executive we were making a video for. He's going to do an announcement for the company, and he's a good public speaker, but put him in front of the camera and he really struggled.
Yes.
He just froze because it was just this different dynamic. And I think you can coach people so much. And really, my solution for him, had I been heavier involved in production, would have been, let's take him down to get a drink. like not a lot,
do
just
shots, and
just
then,
one or two. You know,
know.
he was Irish, he'd be fine. He was a good guy.
Yeah, one bottle of whiskey whenever he came. That's all you need. You know, he shows up, get that whiskey out. No worries.
But you know, just helping people to feel comfortable,
Yes.
and you know, doing things that so they can be natural. Having someone that they can talk to rather than talking to the camera.
Right.
Because a lot of video that people do, you don't have to have. I'm looking in the camera, talking to the audience. Now, for I think like Facebook Live and some of those things, yes, you do that because you're talking to them directly. But like this,
Right.
and just it's just a matter of habit of not doing the thing where I'm looking over for approval, because there is no approval when I look at the lens. Always
Right.
scolding looks of that.
Yeah.
We told you not
It's
to
actually
look.
quite intimidating. Yeah. Well, and this is exactly how the podcast situation is at its best as well, right? When whether it's yourself talking or maybe you do have a co-host or however your interviews, whatever, even if we're not sitting next to each other, it's the idea that we are sitting next to each other. And that's why the show works.
Yeah.
Because you just broke down that barrier. You know, you're just talking, you're just having a great conversation and really connecting.
And I think this is a really great example, like, because we literally met like 3 minutes before we sat down.
Maybe 3.
And the only thing that we knew about each other is you knew TechSmith. But I think the thing that, regardless of your situation, whoever you're putting on camera or whoever you're putting on audio, if they have a passion for the topic, right?
Yes.
They care, even if they're not the brightest and the most, eloquent person that's going to be able to talk about it. You know, they maybe have a little lisp, or who cares?
Right. Right.
But they're passionate, and that translates better than anything. And the podcast I was talking about earlier, the 5 trainers in a car, the reason it works is because the people that come into the car, they're passionate about something.
Right.
They want to talk about that topic. I want to talk about a learning management system and why they stink or why they're great. And it doesn't matter what their position is so much, but that they care.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh my gosh, of course I want to listen to them, because they do have that fire in the belly. They do have something to say. They took a position.
Yes. They have a strong point of view, or yeah.
Yeah. Because there's nothing worse than somebody that's like, oh, I don't know, I don't care.
Right. And any
It's
podcast I've done mainly interview format podcasts, and I loved them because I would only talk to people who were passionate about what they did. And I always said my job is just to hold you right here and ask you a great question, and you're going to do everything else because you already know all the answer. You know the answer. I'm just here to help pull out a little bit of your excitement and your enthusiasm, and which isn't hard to do if they already have passion.
Right.
And we connect with that. That's what connects us.
So we probably should wrap up at some point, but you talked about holding them in your hand, and I kind of said
Yes.
something like going to get the whiskey.
Right. I kind of like your take better. I think I
don't even drink. It's crazy. But what's the one thing that you do if you got someone that's nervous? I mean, they can be passionate, all that, but they're nervous. What do you do to help them just feel
one
more
thing
confident?
I've always done with especially the interviews because I interview a lot of the writers and the the book authors, the presenters, they're really good at what they do, but you're right. You get them in a media situation and they kind of shift a little, or they're afraid they don't have did I get all the questions ahead of time? I want to be perfect, right? And it's the imperfection that actually makes it really cool, right?
Yeah.
But what I always make sure I do is I set up enough time in the interview where we have time in what I call the green room, where we're just talking. As we're kind of getting set up, we're just talking and breaking down that first initial uncomfortableness, or and giving them kind of, this is how the format works. This is how I'm going to work with you. And there have been so many times where I'll say, okay, I'm going to count down 3, 2, silent 1, and then we're going to get started. Like, oh, we aren't recording yet?
I love actually recording those.
And I am recording. Yeah, I know, it is funny because I can edit out, obviously. But the idea is that they've already gotten so comfortable that they just thought this was part of the interview.
Yeah.
And to me, just get them comfortable, get them talking about their kids, something personal, something that doesn't put that big business feel to it. But we're just humans. We're just having a good time. We're going to talk, and the people out there are going to have a really wonderful time listening to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This is so fun, Matt.
We could keep. I mean, I know we could keep going. I absolutely positive we could keep going. But
absolutely.
I think,
well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure.
And I really love Snag It, by the way. It's one of my favorite tools. So
thank you.
I would be remiss if I didn't say that.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that uses it because, I mean, takes care of my family.
Yes.
So
Well, I'm happy.
I love
I'm
that.
happy that your kids could eat this week.
And I love that people find value in something that we get to build.
Absolutely.
You know, that's
Yeah.
it's cool to come to conferences like this and hear the love and hear, you know, how it's making people's lives just a little bit better, because work is hard and work is long, and having something that just kind of works.
You do make my life easier. You're absolutely right. So, Matt, thank you.
You're welcome.